So fall camps are opening all over the place. Some of them have already opened. Pretty much all of them will be open by this weekend. And we waste no time. This time next week, we'll be doing our full-on camp buzz, early whispers and intel, which is some of the funnest times on this show at any point in the year. But right now, some things to watch as camps are opening up. Put your ear to the ground and listen close for the early buzz out of Chapel Hill. North Carolina has rarely entered a season with expectation levels this high. They're merited. I think they're warranted. But I'm looking at two things. The first is the running back position, which has been well documented on this show by this point. Ty Chandler, coming to North Carolina by way of Tennessee, one of the biggest hinge players in America this year, because there is a lot disproportionately riding on his shoulders if North Carolina is going to achieve anything close to what we think they're capable of, because he's replacing a whole lot. They got to replace a whole lot of production there. I think he can, but still got to do it. And then the second part with North Carolina is start listening to what the early feedback is on this defensive line. This time last year, the North Carolina insiders and a lot of coaches with the program, they knew they didn't have what they needed up front defensively. They knew that. There was no mystery. They weren't surprised by their inability to stop bigger, more physical teams. They sing a different tune right now. They think there are 8 or 9 guys that they feel comfortable rolling with. Now, they return everyone. But then you have the classic, well, if you return everyone from a poor unit, are you really doing anything? Well, when you add depth to it, maybe you are. You know, because I can take a good player. If I'm playing him 90 snaps, he's not a good player. His production's not going to be good. But when I add Javari Ritzie, when I add Keyshawn Silver, big-time recruits now that are going to have to play as freshmen, but I think physically they're probably ready to play as freshmen, watch that defensive line. You know, watch all of a sudden early in the season if you're seeing them get a couple more 3-and-outs than you're used to seeing. Watch on short yardage situations if they're able to stand up against the run. That kind of stuff should raise your eyebrow. But before you get to the season, you get the feedback from camp. And you will get feedback. North Carolina's covered very closely. You will start to get some feedback there. Let's go down to Gainesville, Florida. What about the Florida defense? A name that has popped up a couple of times with people close to Florida is Daquan Newkirk. Now, he transferred from Auburn. He's an interior defensive lineman. Transferred from Auburn. I think we bumped him up inside the top 50 of the transfer portal rankings in the final 24/7 rankings. Him and Gervin Dexter on the interior, and then you throw out names like Brenton Cox, and you throw out names like Zach Carter. That is an on-paper All-American caliber unit. I say on paper because we do this with a lot of teams every year. A lot of teams you look and you say, whoa, look at all these names. If every one of those guys lives up to their potential, that's going to be a really good team. That's correct. If every one of these guys stays healthy and lives up to their potential, Florida will have a very stout defensive front. Very stout. Now, of course, we know the games aren't played on paper, and so that's why you start paying attention to fall camp. And you start paying attention to some of those early scrimmage reports and whatnot, and is anyone sidelined? Is anyone missing a couple of days? So there's that. And then, of course, look at Florida's secondary. I think that's been talked about in every preview magazine in the country. Jason Marshall, very excited to see him get on the field at corner. But you got a couple of new guys now. Trey Dean is not technically new, but he's going to have to play a lot more minutes. Rashad Torrance. So there are some guys in the secondary that are going to have to be broken in for Florida. And then you'll have that whole classic, if you're hearing good things about the secondary, is it because Emory Jones can't move the ball? If you're hearing bad things about the secondary, is it just because Emory Jones is torching everybody? Either way, the optimist and the pessimist will have plenty to chew on from Florida fall camp. How about at Alabama? I want to talk about quarterback, but his name's not Bryce Young. Let me preface this. Colin, let me know if I'm not clear enough. There is no quarterback controversy at Alabama. Never has been and never will be this year. It's Bryce Young's job wire to wire, barring injury or whatever. Having said that, I want to see and start to listen to some of the feedback about Jalen Milro. Jalen Milro is a guy who came in. He was a 4-star guy, certainly not overlooked, but I think because of the nature of Alabama's signing class and the last couple of signing classes, really just kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Jalen Milro would have been the crown jewel of many a recruiting class in the top 10. He is a bona fide stud quarterback, dual threat in every sense of the term, out of Texas. And he's a tank. They list him at 6'2", like 205. I don't believe that. He just plays a lot bigger than that if he is only 205. But I was listening to Nick Saban talk. I think he was doing Chuck Oliver's show at SEC Media Days. Nick Saban and I have that in common. We both do that show a lot, in no particular order. And Nick Saban said something that caught my ear. He said, Milro is one of the fastest players on our team. Now, friends, the University of Alabama has a whole lot of speed on campus. And this dude, who is a small-sized truck and is going to play quarterback for them eventually, also happens to be one of the fastest on the team, according to a pretty good source, and that being the head coach. My point is, if they can trust him to handle the ball, they're going to find a way to put Milro on the field this year. I don't doubt that. So the thing to listen to in camp, kind of like when Tua first arrived on campus, it wasn't, is he going to be the starter in week 1? You just start to listen for the buzz. And you start to listen, you go over to BamaOnline.com and you start reading those Charlie Potter practice reports. You start listening to Tim Watson, Travis Reier, and those guys, and they start talking about some feedback and some nuggets and whispers. And the way this will happen is you'll have phrases like Jalen Milro is going to be hard to keep off the field. Jalen Milro again stood out in today's scrimmage. Jalen Milro showing a lot of versatility. Listen for those kinds of phrases, because that is key for this guy's going to see a lot of action this year. Not at the expense of Bryce Young, but they'll find a way. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, I want to know where Oregon's quarterback room is. You know, Anthony Brown's going to be the starter here. Mario Cristobal has gone out of his way to make that clear. But let's talk about the future, because past this year, it gets really interesting for them. Ty Thompson comes in. He's a true freshman. And so early on, understandably so, the talk was, will Ty Thompson come in, high 4-star out of Arizona, and will he be able to overtake Anthony Brown? Well, early on, no, that's not what's happening. And even more so, it doesn't look like Ty Thompson has locked up the number 2 spot there. But that's not a bad thing, because that's all relative to how thick the quarterback race is and how deep the quarterback position is. Well, it's pretty deep there. In fact, it's very deep. So you got Anthony Brown, who has come there by way of Boston College, second year there. He's played a ton of minutes, and so he's very experienced. But Ty Thompson, I want to watch week 1 of fall camp versus week 4 of fall camp. Who's he running with? Is he running with 4s? Is he splitting reps with 3s? Is he with the 2s? Is he getting some looks with the 1s, even though we know Anthony Brown's going to start? But Robbie Ashford has been very dependable for them. Jay Butterfield has been very dependable for them. So Oregon, not only are they in a good quarterback situation to begin with, but that's also one of those sort of transfer hot spots to watch, as is Columbus, Ohio. A number of places fit this description, where you got multiple legitimate players. Only one of them can start. Just keep an eye on that. I'm very interested with Oregon.